Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Picks and Sticks podcast, a fun music podcast where four great friends talk about the music, bands, and songs that they love. I'm Mauro.
I'm Gordo.
I'm Cecil.
And I'm Huff.
And this is Picks and Sticks. On today's episode of the podcast, we bring you 10 great songs from the band Metallica. How's it going today, guys?
Awesome.
Good.
Excited, man. It's going to be good.
Man. I'm ready to talk about the Phantom Lord.
Excellent.
So this is what we call our maiden voyage, our first podcast.
The inaugural.
Yeah. And I guess we picked Metallica because Metallica had such a big influence on us when we were younger. And you know, back in the day, Metallica was the band you wanted to be, the band you wanted to listen to, and that was quite a few years ago. But for me, Metallica sort of got me jacked about music. I was in my teens. I was just starting to play guitar, and they were just so different than everyone else. They were from the Big Four coming out of San Francisco, if you remember. It was Anthrax, Megadeth, Slayer, and Metallica, and of course Metallica being the most popular of the four, but all four still alive,
Still
and
around,
today.
Still kicking. I heard there's a new Anthrax album actually coming out here pretty quick.
Nice.
We'll get to that later.
Right on.
Yeah.
So Huff, do you just want to talk a little bit about how we come to our top 10 list?
Yeah, so you know there will be a theme, I guess, with each episode. Where we will have a top 10 list. You know, again, not necessarily the best songs, but songs that are our favorites or songs that really resonate with us. The way we get that top 10 list is we each create. So the four of us, we each create a top 20 list. Right, so then we take those 80 songs and we compile them using the patented Picks and Sticks algorithm. It's very high tech, and it spits out each song ranked. There's a ranking system, and then obviously from there we take the top 10 songs. So each artist might be a little bit different. Sometimes we'll spend more time on the 10, depending on how it all shakes out. Sometimes we'll talk about, you know, maybe what's not in the 10 and why not. And you know, we'll kind of go from there. So that's it in a nutshell, I would say.
Yeah, sometimes there's some egregious omissions from the top 10. We'll get to that, but I think the top 10 list this time is looking pretty good, fellas.
Yeah, and I think this is a great example. You know, we're starting with Metallica again, just like Mauro said. You know, I think we're all big Metallica fans. We're all roughly the same age. I think we all kind of got into Metallica around the Injustice for All album time, and then kind of went backwards and got familiar with, you know, Kill 'Em All and Master and Ride the Lightning. So a lot of those.
Do you remember what the first Metallica song you heard was?
I do. It was Master of Puppets. I think it was Battery, and I was like, oh, what's with this acoustic intro? And then it just hit me, and I think I listened to the whole album in one sitting, and I didn't move. I was like, what did I just listen to? This is incredible. Like, literally, I was a young guy, so it was life-changing for me. So I was into my Master Puppets thing, couldn't wait for Injustice for All, which was soon after.
Yeah, the first song, and that's the funny thing is I hadn't listened to Metallica at all. Up until the release of Injustice for All, and a friend of mine, right? I was in his car, and he in those days it was cassettes, right? He pops the cassette in, and Blackened starts playing, and I was just like, holy shit! Like this is unbelievable. And then it was after, you know, I was familiar with that album. I think the first song that I heard after that wasn't on the Injustice album was Master of Puppets, and that song, you know, clearly is an epic tune, and you know, off to the races I went. I just started buying all the cassettes and all that stuff. So, what were you going to say, Cease?
My sister, sorry, she bought she had Ride the Lightning, she had Master of Puppets records, no, not vinyl. right?
Nice. Yeah.
And but I never got into them till Justice for All come out, and then that's when I kind of then I went back and like, holy crap, this band rules. I was quite upset when I heard about this bass conspiracy on Injustice for All. Mauro brought up that there's no bass on there, right?
It's there. It's just so it's turned down in the mix so bad. It's like it. But what was weird though is when I heard the album, it wasn't like when you listen to the album, you sat there and said, "Where's the bass player?" I don't remember that being a standout.
Never.
Now that you listen to it, right? Like
now you listen to it, you're like, "There, you're right."
Well, yeah, it wasn't as obvious, and we'll get into this. It's at some point, I imagine, but it wasn't as obvious as Lars's snare sound on Saint Anger. Right, like I was that slapped you in the face the first minute you heard it, right? Or,
the first sounds like the. Sorry to interrupt again. The no bass sounds like Cornerstone when we started. The little tiny Coron amp.
That's right. The microphone hanging in the middle of the room.
We put
playing out of tune and out of time.
Mauro put a PA mic in front of my amp to give it a voice.
That's right.
I still have that amp. And that bass. That bass guitar is a piece of crap. The first time I heard Justice, that was the first album I heard. I don't actually remember what song it was, but it was at, I've told you this before, at Trev's house. And I'd only been subjected to AC/DC and Guns N' Roses, really, from that sort of rock metal sort of era. And when I heard Justice, it blew my head off. I was like, wow, that's super cool. And you're right, I didn't notice that there was really no bass because all I cared about was the guitars.
It was really different, like a lot of the stuff that I was listening to. I mean, I was listening to, some Sabbath and, a lot of Iron Maiden. But, you got to remember that it was a lot of glam rock at that time as well. Like I was big on, Cinderella and Def Leppard and stuff like that. So it was, I don't say it was completely different, but, or at least Injustice for All. But when you went back to Kill 'Em All, like Kill 'Em All was what year was that released in? 83, 80?
I think it was 82.
83. Yeah, you're right. In 83, that was completely different, and the fact that they were able to build off that as a thrash metal type band, and then so many other bands were influenced by that and went into different directions, and in some cases blatantly stole riffs and stuff as well.
If you could combine Megadeth and Metallica, you already have. You had Kill 'Em All.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of stuff like more. I don't know if you want to get into this a little bit, but in terms of Dave Mustaine's playing style, there's something about it that you really really like, right? And you can feel it on Kill 'Em All.
Yeah, he was just sorry, excuse me. He was just Dave was more of a alternate picking, fast sort of punk guitar player. And if you listen to Kill 'Em All compared to all the other albums, there's more of that sort of punk, British wave of heavy metal sound to it. And I think he continued a bit more of that with Megadeth. And as he was gone from the band, obviously, before Kill 'Em All was even released, but you can tell James's guitar style's quite different. And Justice was all James for sure.
One thing you touch on, Huffman, is that when they first kind of grabbed some popularity, there's mostly glam metal. And we were in junior high, and I just noticed most of the toughest guys in my school that had like mustaches had the Metallica badges on the back of their jean jacket, and those are the dudes you avoided. I'm like, who is this band? I need to know more about this. These guys are terrifying. So, like, truly.
The Ride the Lightning patch on the jean jacket, eh? It fit perfectly to the seam to seam.
That's totally. Right. Guys got Kill 'Em All on the back of his jacket. Like, that's a bold statement, sir.
Yeah. The hammer with the blood pouring out of it. You're like, what the hell is going on?
Exactly.
Well, I seem to remember Kill 'Em All.
And that's what led us.
Kill 'Em All wasn't just sitting there in the record store. Though. I remember it was hard to get. Like it wasn't. I could be mistaken, but I seem to remember it was hard to find at the time. It wasn't.
Might have been in the beginning. I know that
Trying to find any music is hard to find then, though.
Kill 'Em All is on. For me personally, I have purchased Kill 'Em All almost more than any other. There's one album, Pyromania, I will say that I have purchased more than any other because, again, back when it was cassettes, I'd wear them out. So I listened to Pyromania so many times that I wore out the cassette twice. So I actually ended up buying it 3 times, and then I ended up buying the CD, and then I lost the CD. Then I bought the CD again. So I ended up buying Pyromania 5 times.
I've bought Kill 'Em All.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So maybe I'd love to get into some Def Leppard at some point, but Kill 'Em All, I've purchased 4 times. I guess not counting digital because technically you don't own it. You subscribe to iTunes or Google Music or whatever it is that you listen to. So I don't know. I didn't seem to have a hard time finding it. Maybe that's why their album sales are so high because people wore the shit out of the cassettes and stuff, and they just had to keep buying it. So I'm definitely responsible for 5 of those purchases out of the 8.5 or 9 million albums that they sold out of Kill 'Em All.
So do we want to go into the top 10 list then? Do we want to?
That might be a good place to start because I think what I'd like to do is I mean, we can talk about the 10, and this might be one of those bands where it's kind of hard to debate. You can't necessarily say, out of these 10 songs and say, oh, that song sucks or that is not a song. The problem is, and I encourage any of the listeners that are going to be yelling and screaming at their device as they listen to this podcast and say, how could you not have this and how could you not have that? And we'll talk about that in a second, but try and create your own list. And I'll say that in probably every podcast. Try and do that, and it's very, very difficult. So I think we'll talk about the top 10, maybe spend a little more time on a couple of songs here and there, but then maybe move on to the songs that aren't there. And then if we have time, I wouldn't mind talking about maybe some of the albums in between or outside of the big 5, and then the changes that happened in the 90s and stuff. That
sounds good, man.
We did focus on studio albums, right?
Well, yeah, good call. We did focus. So, we didn't talk about any live tracks. Technically anything off of Garage Days and stuff like that was fair game. But I think we tried to, I think we stayed away from any cover tunes. So, Am I Evil, isn't on there and those kinds of things. So in the 10 slot is Seek and Destroy, which is just a staple, I guess, in terms of, I don't know if I've been to a Metallica show where they didn't play it. Maybe once. It's a Kill 'Em All song. I don't know if there's much to say on that other than everybody always tries to learn how to play it. Every startup musician wants to learn how to play that.
It's a very iconic riff that starts a song, and every guitar player that ever tried to play it failed miserably at my age group, but it was worth trying. One thing I would say about that song too is it stands out for me in that in an album where they still had that kind of punk edge to them, a lot of fast stuff. This one they slowed it down a little bit, and I think it came. I can't remember where it is on the album, but it's kind of a breath of fresh air. You get
it's one of the few you can keep up with.
Yeah, right. Like you can tap your foot to it, and iconic riff, great lyrics,
great lyrics. I was just gonna say that, especially right out of the gate, right? Like scanning the scene in the city tonight, looking for you to start up a fight. Like, fuck yeah.
You're getting yourself into,
right?
Yeah, I think every guitar player tries to learn that riff for sure.
Yeah, well, and it usually, if you've ever been to, buddies' jam sessions or whatever, and I know we used to have that in our sessions. I know you did as well, Gord. Mm. It's the first few, maybe 20 seconds of it that you play, right? And then it dies.
I played the first 20 seconds for 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't get further than that. Yeah. So that's Seek. Seek is a great tune. The number 9 ranked song in terms of popularity or favorite songs of ours is the title track from And Justice for All. Gord, what have you got to say about that, if anything?
Well, I had this one lower on my list than you fellas. I had it at number 20. I think it's a great song. I think there's some stronger songs on the album, but in an album where some of they had a lot of lengthy songs on it. This one is really lengthy, but I didn't think it dragged. It really sticks out. It's got a good drum hook. If I'm not mistaken, it's written around the drums as something only Lars could pull off, really. Hey, man, listen to my drums. We should make a song around this.
It's not written around the bass.
No, it sure ain't. A good song, strong song. It's quite deserving at number 9, I think.
Yeah, and Mauro, you had it third on your list, so obviously you're a big fan.
Yeah, I was a huge fan. I still am a huge fan of that song. I always think it's too long until I start listening to it, because it changes so many times throughout. But one of my favorite parts about that song is the guitar harmonizing. The like I just think it's so cool, and the way the song, it's just really good from the start to the finish, and it's almost like two or three different songs, but that's how they were when they were writing those songs on Injustice.
Yeah, that album in particular. I'll scoot over to number 8 is Sanitarium. That's a song that I personally love that song. I had it in just outside my top 10 at number 12 on my personal list, but on my I should say that on my list of 20, I think I had 7 of the 8 songs on Master of Puppets on my list. So anytime any of these songs I'm a big fan of. Sanitarium, I think, was highest on Mauro's list at number 6.
Wow. Do explain, sir.
Yeah.
It was my favorite sort of ballady type song. I mean, it obviously doesn't end like a ballad, but it starts like one. And I don't know, I always really liked it. I thought it just was a great tune.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say you got laid to that song and that's why it's so high, but that's okay. Your explanation was also good.
Yeah. Number 7 is
Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
A little creepy, man. You better not have.
Number 7 is Fade to Black. That was highest on my list. I had it at number 6 on my list. It was number 7 overall. Ride the Lightning. I guess I'll say that generally speaking, when with bands, especially bands like this, like a lot of the songs that I prefer are the heavier songs, sometimes the faster songs, those kinds of things. And I recognize that. I mean, I know that Fade to Black isn't, it's not a ballad. They've got some other songs that we'll talk about in a little bit that are more, radio friendly or more melodic, or they've got a better hook, like whatever. But that Fade to Black, to me, just that acoustic guitar, there's just kind of an eerie piece to it. There's just something that I really, really love about that song. And I defy anybody to say that it doesn't belong on any top 10 list.
Wow. Defy. Yeah. What do you think, Cecil? Where did you have that on your list, Cecil?
I had that at...
He was at number 13.
13.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Gord, you were at 14. Mauro was 11. So...
Okay.
They're on all 4 lists, so that's clearly, when the algorithm kicks in, clearly that signifies that it's a popular song amongst us, and that's how it makes it in there.
One thing I'd say about this Metallica, their whole library is, I know it's very popular now for bands to go back and remaster, but I found that Ride the Lightning, of all their albums, really benefited the most from a remaster, and it's all those songs. So? Well, they tended to record back in those days with a lot of reverb, a lot of echo. It sounds like they recorded on a distant hilltop. And you're like, right? And I don't know what it was, if they punched up the bass or what. It sounds a little bit more in your face, and
A little
that song,
thicker.
yeah, and that song in particular, being a ballad, it really benefited the low end, and I'm glad to see it on the list.
Yeah, there's some great songs on that album. Is there? I don't know if there's. We'll just leave it at that.
Well,
So from
I do. Sorry, I was just thinking about something. I do find it's really interesting because those songs, they start out, slower. They get heavier. They're quite long songs. When I talk about Sanitarium and Fade to Black, they never, because Metallica was so heavy at the time, and those songs never got any radio play.
yeah, good call.
None of their music did, which is weird. I guess it's not weird because they were so heavy at the time, but if you listen to that stuff today, it's pretty straightforward. It's not. It should be on the radio.
One was the first thing I ever. Well, I never heard anyone on the radio, but saw on Much Music, the video.
Yeah, that's. And then there were some radio stations, some harder rock or some rock stations that would play it occasionally, not necessarily in prime time, or didn't get a lot of rotation. But you're right. That was, once you saw the video, and that was really the first song that would go mainstream, I suppose, if you can use that term.
Yeah.
Cool. What's next, Huff?
So from Fade to Black, same album, For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Oh, brother.
That was again a popular one with us. Gord, you and I had it the highest. Both had it at number 3. So why don't you run with that? I don't, and maybe you don't have anything different to say about that other than, I mean, it's a Ride the Lightning tune that.
Oh, but I do, sir.
It's beautiful. Let it go. Let me hear it. I'm dying to hear it.
Whom the Bell Tolls, one of the greatest riffs that band ever wrote, and it was a Cliff Burton written song to my knowledge, and he passed right after the Master of Puppets recording, and he died on tour on a bus crash. But I believe he wrote that song, and please, listeners, correct me if I'm wrong, but
somebody will.
Don't
worry, the comments will be on fire saying, "You dummy."
But just how it drops down into the bass, which they didn't used to do, and they don't do a lot of anymore. The song starts, and then they just drop down into the dum 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 dum, and then the band catches up with them. It's really well done. They don't typically write songs like that in that style, so it resonated with me a lot.
Yeah, that's a good. That part right there, really, really loud, right? Like,
dude, when they do that live, the whole crowd is just like jacked.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of sore necks the next day for sure. So from Whom the Bell Tolls, we'll move on. So number 5, and this is a song that Cecil just mentioned a little while ago. A song called One, off Injustice for All, comes in at number 5. I guess we kind of touched on a little bit. It was the first one that kind of got popular. It was it kind of opened the band to non-metalheads, I suppose, if you will. Cecil, you mentioned MTV and those kinds of things. What is there anything you want to add about the song One?
One came on Much Music. Had that dark video from that. I don't know if the movie's called Johnny Got His Gun, but Buddy's blown up, no arms, no legs, no senses. So the whole movie are about everything inside his head. And the video probably makes the
video is amazing,
even darker. But it's what's not
that song is killer live.
Long-haired Metallica too. It was near the end of the long-hair days too.
Yeah, and Hetfield with that stash, the handlebar stash.
Yeah, that's right.
It really, really good. That song is, I mean the story and everything behind it. But what's the word? I don't want to say. It's not. It's an experience. Like, I listened to it today. I gave it some volume. And Mauro, I'll let you take it. It's my favorite live song, and you had mentioned that live, it's a pretty good song. So I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, it's not my favorite Metallica song, but it's my absolute favorite song to watch live. Just the way it starts with the helicopter and just
the gunfire.
The gunfire. It's just
the explosions and
I compared it to Metallica's version of "For Those About to Rock." You know.
Yeah.
I found the whole exercise of re-listening to a lot of these old songs was interesting, and I'd probably overplayed one way too much, so I wasn't expecting it to make my top 10 at all, just from sheer over-listening, and I couldn't help but bump it into the top 10. On a fresh listen, it is a really good, well-done song. As you guys said, the video's killer, but the ending is intense, and it's fantastic, and
I had the same. I enjoyed it more than I remembered. I thought it was like maybe it was overplayed and wouldn't be into as much. I'm like, man, that's a good tune here.
It is, yeah.
Especially like how many times have you stood there in the air guitar pose saying, "Darkness, imprison me, all I see."
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, and air drumming it, trying to drive while I'm doing double bass. I'm almost crashing. It's a problem.
For me, it's one of those songs where you never put it on, but then when you do, you're like, oh man, I should listen to that song more because it's really good.
Yeah, it's great when it shows up in the mix. So that's in at number 5. Number 4 is kind of one of my favorite riffs, I guess, from Kill 'Em All. A song called Whiplash, and I don't know if maybe this speaks to that. What you were saying earlier about Mustaine with like a bit of a punk feel to it, but it's just like that whole song is just an absolute beating from beginning to end. And in fact, Mauro, you had it number 1 on your list. That was your number 1 Metallica song. So clearly you're a big fan.
Yeah, it's just it's speed.
Yeah,
speed.
Pure speed and heavy.
Yeah, and from like just trying to learn Metallica riffs and that over the years, it's just one of those alternate picking. Those of you that play guitar, it's an alternate pick riff, so you can just go where a lot of the stuff James plays is down picking, which is really hard too. And Master of Puppets is that way. It's down picking, but Whiplash has got that Mustaine feel. It's got that really fast punk feel. It is my favorite song by far. When I hear it, I go bananas. And if I'm going to listen to old Metallica, it's the first song I go to.
Yeah,
good call. I like that song because it's about going bananas too. It's just about go bananas. It's about a song going bananas. You don't have to think.
Yeah.
You're not too
it's
deep.
about a live show, right?
Just bang your head.
Yeah.
It's about getting a sore neck at a thrash concert.
Yeah.
If you think about when moshing started in mosh pits, that song is like the ultimate mosh pit song.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
It was called slam dancing back then, remember?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, slam dancing. So I'm going to tackle the top 3 because they're all worthy of. I mean, they could be. All these songs could be top songs, to be quite frank. But so the top 3 in order. So 1, Battery. 2, Damage Inc. 3, Master of Puppets. I'll talk about Damage Inc. Because I was listening to it today, and I realized as I was re-listening to that song that is my favorite solo, I think, of all the Metallica songs. That solo it's almost like it's 3 pieces to it, and they're 3 different sort of styles, and I like a nice long solo as well, and that's sort of that Damage Incorporated is just so Damage Incorporated go awesome. Just give that to me all day long.
Yeah, I remember running around, just sprinting like down the hall in our house, playing that on the old record player with the 3 feet high wooden speakers.
Yeah, right.
Straight
the
down
old
the hall
school
back.
Speakers.
Yeah, we would wait the slow beginning, and then when actually, the other thing about Metallica is how many songs have that slow beginning. You just the wait for it beginning, wait for it, and then it just kicks in.
It is an absolutely amazing end of an album. I know they like to start strong and end strong. This easily could have been the first song on the album and Battery last. I think those easily could have been flipped because they're similar. But man, as a drummer, and you as well, Huffman, I remember just breaking my calves trying to play this song on the drums and just like flubbing it horribly. and loving every minute of it because I'm playing Damage Inc. half-assed. Excellent song.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll talk about Master of Puppets for a second. When I was learning to play guitar, I was like 18, and I heard Mauro. I don't think you had played much longer, but I know you. I can't remember. He was around the beginning of playing guitar too, and I was practicing a lot of Nirvana. That was the songs I could first learn, like Polly Wants a Cracker, Breed, Simple Riffs, and then we were over at Hoffland's and Wally's, and I was on the back of the skateboard ramp, and Mauro was over, a bunch of us over there, and I heard Mauro was like, "Oh, try your guitar." They go inside. He had the window open. He rips off Master of Puppets. Just, I still remember we're going, "What the? That's Mauro?" Like he's just firing it off. I'm like, I gotta practice, man. Can't keep up with that. It was incredible.
That's classic James with his that is a really hard
That's a
riff.
killer intro.
Yeah.
It's just so fast.
It is, and Master Puppets is the first song that I heard that wasn't an Injustice for All album, or on that album. That was the sort of the first song I had heard outside of, sort of their older stuff, and obviously loved it. So
I haven't played that in a while. I should try and play that.
Fired up.
Do it now.
So now here's as the people are listening and they say, okay, so those are the top 10 songs. So it's Battery, Damage Incorporated, Master of Puppets, Whiplash, One, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Fade to Black, Sanitarium, and Justice for All, Seek and Destroy. So what's missing? I want to talk about sort of the popular songs, because again, we're sort of old school Metallica guys. What's not on the top 10? Now, some of these songs are on the top 20 lists, the individual lists. And some of those songs that I'm just going to talk about, Enter Sandman, Nothing Else Matters, The Unforgiven, Sad But True, Wherever I May Roam, Fuel, The Memory Remains, Until It Sleeps, Hero of the Day. Those all got significant airplay. They're all from the Black Album, from Load, Reload. None of which are well, the Black Album. I shouldn't say that it was not. Now I don't listen to it a whole lot, but I will say when it did come out, I listened to to that album quite a bit, and I do love those songs. The challenge again, as you start to create top 10 lists, is I have a hard time. If I pick 10 songs that I wanted to listen to, I'm not so sure that any of those songs would be on there. So I don't know if anybody has any comments. I know that Mauro, you had Sandman on there. Gordo, you had Sad But True. I had Sad But True. We had some other songs that maybe we'll get to, like, Bleeding Me, Don't Tread on Me was on there. So some of those songs, but,
maybe now's a good time to talk about their trajectory through that time. Is, obviously the Black Album was a departure. It was well recorded. It was really heavy. It was a little bit more catchy, a little more radio friendly. That's when they really made it big, as you say, with Enter Sandman, etc. I've danced to that song way too many times, kind of drunk at the back alley.
Yeah, back alley. I knew. Yeah.
I can't put that on my list, but I think if you want to talk about the Fuel Refuel years, none of those songs made my list.
Load, Reload, not Fuel, Refuel.
Yeah, whatever. The
song's called Fuel. See, that sums it up right there.
It does. It's like it's the Nickelback basis for all their evil that they've projected on the world right off those albums. I don't like any of those songs. I don't like Fuel. I know you guys have a bit of a soft spot, but at that time I was getting into other bands. None of those things resonated with me. Their later albums, they had some good stuff, but they went through a period there where I just wasn't into them. I didn't like seeing Lars wearing mascara. I didn't like what they were trying to do.
The short hair.
Yeah, the music doesn't resonate with me. It's not awful. It's just nowhere near the top 20 for me.
Yeah, the Black Album for me, there's some songs on there that I really like. They start to lose me at Load and Reload in the mid 90s. Yeah, so I agree with that. But what was interesting is, before we started recording this podcast, if you go online and start looking at, and any of social media where there's comments and that, and it's very interesting to me, where there is that younger group of Metallica fans that will say Load is my favorite album. The Memory Remains is my favorite song, and I love when they play it live and that. And I think, as a dream, what I would love to do one day is, further down the road here with the podcast, I'd love to, bring a listener, or bring somebody on that is in that range and have a further conversation, just talk about that, because it's not my thing, I like the new stuff, but that mid 90s stuff I find very very difficult to listen to.
When Black Album came out, I had to jump ship. There's 2 songs on there too. It was like I had a girlfriend in grade 11. Those are like breakup songs with me. We broke up, and the 2 slow songs, I can't remember what they are.
Nothing Else Matters.
That's when
that seems like a good title
Yeah.
track.
The Unforgiven.
Nothing Else Matters and Unforgiven would be the 2 slow ones.
We went out like 2 months. Started at school. That was it. Like, we barely even dated. She had breakup songs, and picked Metallica. I'm like, come on.
Damaged. Mauro, real quickly, and then we'll move on. But out of the 4 of us, on your list, you've got some songs from Load and Reload, and I would say that there are some songs like The Cure, which is a good song, actually. Like, I can pick and choose a few songs here and there that I really like. There's other songs that like 2x4 that I don't like, but Ain't My Bitch isn't my kind of song. But do you want to maybe add a little color from your perspective on those 2 albums?
Well, the band changed, but I never jumped ship on them. They evolved, and if I was to say that those were my favorite albums, I'd be lying. But I do like the song Enter Sandman. When I hear it, I listen to it. I love it. I loved when it came out. The Unforgiven's a good tune. Nothing
Let me
Else
ask you a
Matters
question.
good tune.
Have you ever danced to Enter Sandman on a speaker?
Probably.
All right.
I don't remember. If I have, I don't remember.
Okay, go ahead.
That's the only answer, because if you have, there's no chance you'd remember.
I haven't really done a lot of dancing to Metallica, to be honest.
The Black Album concert here had the greatest post-concert fights I've ever seen. There was many. It was insane. But there was at least 5 fights you could see from that mezzanine when you walk from the Saddle Dome to the C train.
Bringing out the best in everybody.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised they let him come back after the Justice concert.
Yeah. All right, let's get back on topic here.
What I will say though is, with the Black Album, and I'm not going to suggest I know what Metallica was thinking, but I'm assuming that Bob Rock had a huge influence on the fact that they made their songs shorter and they made them simpler.
Mm-hmm.
And they did the same thing on Load and Reload. It was shorter, simpler. It was
supposed to be a double album. That's why they sound the same, right?
Yeah, and then Saint Anger was sort of a debacle, in my opinion. I do like some of it. And that was them. It sounded like them trying to break free of that sort of radio play formula. And it didn't work. And until they got back to Rick Rubin, who I have always admired over the years as a producer, I think he does great stuff. He sort of got them back into the song formulas where they just were free. The songs got longer, the songs were a bit heavier, and they were more intricate and complex. But I'd also imagine they probably got a little bit tired, because if you go to a concert, they don't play a ton of Justice stuff. They turned it into a medley because it's very hard to play. And I would imagine it's very tiring. So, they had to evolve and simplify. And to be honest, all these comparisons to Nickelback, I think, is insulting to them. I don't think they're like Nickelback at all. Just my opinion. There may be similar sounds, but if anything, Nickelback ripped them off. And
I've never heard
I
that
just think
till now.
I just think they had
Just
to
this
evolve.
moment.
The
And
Metallica riffs are still heavier. If like honestly, as much as I don't like a lot of the songs on Load and Reload, but even those songs that are rock songs, not some of the ballads and the slower stuff like Hero of the Day and stuff like that, but they pound for pound, the Metallica riffs are significantly heavier. But I know what Gord's saying in terms of it that is like Metallica light to me. And yeah, Nickelback would be, if you wanted to. I mean, there's other bands of that, of that sort of ilk, if you will. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I agree that they sort of stole. And I hate to use the term stole, but they were inspired by those albums to create some of the stuff that they did. And some of the Nickelback stuff, quite frankly, some of those riffs are pretty heavy. Like. I don't want to get into a Nickelback situation here because that's not what we're here to talk about. But Gordon, it was your comment. I'll let you talk to it.
Yeah, I didn't mean that as a slight to Metallica. What I meant was Nickelback, a band I don't really care for, cherry picked. They're more radio friendly, formulaic riffs, and that's the era Metallica found themselves in with the Load Reload albums. And it's just really easy to take that kind of heavy formula. We start heavy. Oh, we go kind of quiet. Nirvana's doing that. And then we hit them hard with this huge arena riff, and it's going to be this great sing-along. It doesn't do it for me. And I didn't like it when Metallica tried that. I think they were at their best when they wrote those complex songs like Injustice for All, etc., that really worked with a lot of different formulas. Nickelback took their Load Reload, use the formula, and they got some catchy stuff. I didn't care for that era of Metallica.
Fair enough. So Saint Anger, not a lot there. Like you said, Mauro, I think the band was really in turmoil. They almost broke up. James was in and out of rehab, and I think they were all trying to sort of reinvent themselves and find their way. I hate the fact. Well, most people hate the way that the album sounds.
Can I ask
hate
you
the
guys
fact
a question?
that there's no solos. Yeah, fire.
I was going to say, on my only song that made it in my top 20 off that was Frantic. And
I like it.
Carlin did too. And
Yeah, Carlin had it.
I kept thinking if it would have been written on a different album with a different production, that song would have been ranked a lot higher. I think it's a really good song taken for what it is. If you can manage to take it off the fact that it was on that album with a lot of filler and a lot of bad production. But I think that's a great song. Special shout out to some of my favorite Metallica lyrics. Your lifestyle, your lifestyle determines your death style. That's high marks.
Yeah, I that's the only song I can listen to on that album because it is difficult to listen to. Death Magnetic really reignited my love of this band because there was such a long time, right? Like Reload was out in 97, and I know Garage Inc. was in there, and then they did S&M. Saint Anger I didn't really listen to a whole lot. So Death Magnetic was out in 2008, right? So you're looking at 10, 11 years. Death Magnetic is great. We've got some songs on there that were that are ranked fairly high. My Apocalypse. Just kind of scanning through here. What am I? That was Just Your Life. Those kinds of songs.
Great songs.
Hardwired, I think, is a great album as well. There's a lot of songs on there that I really enjoy. Which I want to go back to the list real briefly here before I'm going to sort of ask you guys a couple of questions before we close. So tied at number 11, so just outside of the top 10, I was happy to see there's a song called Atlas Rise, which is on the Hardwired to Self-Destruct album. It's one of my favorite songs on that album, and quite frankly, one of their best newer songs. So that was tied with a song called "The Thing That Should Not Be," which is an absolute monster of a song as well. So, so we did get a little bit of new stuff in there. There's not a whole lot in terms of the way that shook out. I would say that I have listened to a lot of Hardwired and a lot of Death Magnetic, whereas I know Cecil kind of tapped out, like you said, at the Black Album, and if you look at his top 20, it's pretty much all, Master, Kill 'Em all the early stuff with the exception of Frantic that makes it on there, but it's all off of Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master, and Justice, and that's it. So
it's hard for bands to keep up that standard. They got a life.
Yeah,
all their life's work goes in the first album, and then they gotta the next few months go into the next one, right?
Well, you're right. It's hard when you're a band like that. You look at name any band that's gone along that has maintained the same, relative the same group of people, right? The Stones are always the one that you look at, and you could argue that a lot of their later stuff isn't very good. Aerosmith would be the same way. I love a lot of their early stuff, and then they just turned into doing love ballads for movie soundtracks, and they're awful. So, Mauro, you want to say something?
I got a question. Is there a band that you're a big fan of that Metallica seems to frustrate their fans more than anything? And as a huge fan of Metallica, probably of the top bands on my playlists, Metallica would be up there. But they're one of the most frustrating bands over the years. It always took so long to release an album.
Yeah.
And there was always some kind of controversy around how it sounded or what their style was or what they were doing. It just so frustrating.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that did piss me off. That was one of the hardest things. Kill 'Em All was 83. Ride the Lightning was 84. Master was 86. Then they did Garage Days in 87. Justice was 88. Black Album was 91, and that was kind of the first time that they took a little bit of time, and that was the Black Album. Then the wheels came off. Then it took 5 years to get Load, and Load was exactly that. It was a load. Reload was a year later, but most of the stuff from Reload was already written because they were going to, as I mentioned earlier, they were going to release Load as a double album, and they decided to do it in 2 parts, but it's basically the same album. Garage Inc. was 98. There were some, if you like cover tunes and stuff, there's some good stuff in there. My favorite song off of there is Stone Dead Forever. But there's some, I think
So
Whiskey in the, yeah, well, no, that was on the earlier one, wasn't it?
Oh, is it?
Oh, maybe not.
I don't know.
But there's some decent stuff on there. There was that Bob Seger cover, and there's some decent shit on there, but it's not new stuff. Then they did S&M, which I'm not a big fan of. And then Saint Anger was a nightmare. Like, you're exactly right. And Gord, you and I, we'd all kind of talked off air when you said, I don't know if there's a band out there that has had more production problems than, for a band this popular that has had so many freaking production problems. It's incredible that they're still around.
It really is, and it's all self-inflicted is the thing. It's not like they were getting screwed around by their company or whatever. Like, it was Lars telling the guy in the booth to turn the new bass player down. It was Lars telling the guy to turn shit up. It was not doing the homework ahead of time. Like, it's crazy the diverse controversy that they've had over just the actual sound quality of their albums, and they've had all the money and resources in the world to do it correctly the whole time.
Because Ride the Lightning does have a different sound to it, right? I don't know. The only thing that comes to my mind, it sounds thin.
It sounds like the cover. It's cold,
and maybe that was by design. I don't know, but like you said, in Justice, there's no bass, and then you got Load and Reload, like Saint Anger, Death Magnetic. You were saying, Gord, that a lot of people complain about the compression of it and all of that. So
yeah,
interesting. So. We'll leave that at that. I think maybe we'll do a quick roundtable here and pick a song or two. Call it a deep cut or something that is either on your list later, further down that you want to just kind of give a shout out to, and or go completely off the board if you like. Let's start with you, Gord.
Sure, thanks, Huff. I got two. One off of clearly our favorite album, Master Puppets, is The Thing That Should Not Be. It stuck out for me. It's slow and heavy. It's not a ballad. It's just one of those songs that they do in the future where it's just dun, 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 dun. It's just really heavy, really catchy. Love that song. The other one, which I thought suffered a little bit on their album, but when you see it played live amongst their other songs, it sticks out as a gem, is Creeping Death. I think Creeping Death is an amazing song. They play it at virtually every show, and it's a fan favorite.
It's the participation part, right?
It totally is.
Love it.
Die, right?
Yeah.
How many times do you get to chant that? Like it's a great song, and it really sticks out live to me. Just like one that just jumps off the album when they play it live.
Cecil, do you want to jump in with one or two?
I overlooked Creeping Death, and I could have had it top 10. But I didn't bother by then.
Yeah.
And you have that with a lot of these songs. Outside my top 20 were Small Hours, Helpless, and Eye of the Beholder. I want to talk about Phantom Lord. That song I just cannot get away from. Well, it's the song I get in my head all the time. I sing the most. I just love. It's got everything: the slow build-up intro, the killer riffs, of course, the solos. I like the solo where there's like almost when I say, like it goes from one guitar to the other, right? They go back and forth to each other. But last I'll close on because I'm all about story time, I guess. The guitar shop down in Deer Run growing up. There's a small little tiny one down on Bull Bottom Trail, and it had a sign. It said, "You do 2 songs prohibited from playing." One was
Smoke. Oh, I thought it was Smoke on the Water.
No. One was the one song you're not allowed to play, and the other, Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, Stairway I could see for sure, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So I'll jump in, I guess. Where do I want to go? Trapped Under Ice. I want to give a shout out to Trapped Under Ice. That is a song that that I just love. Off Ride the Lightning. It's got a bit of a punk element to it. It's just a song that I love to play. And I'm gonna go sort of new school. Actually, I'm gonna cheat. There's gonna be 2. I'll make this quick. So new school a little bit. Spit Out the Bone off of Hardwired, which is kind of their return to their old style. It's almost like, if you remember Dyer's Eve, it's kind of the this year's version, or I guess the 2016 version of Dyer's Eve, but it's just molten metal. It's just bone crushing, and it's a great tune that I love to play live. And I think third, I want to mention Unforgiven 3, because generally I don't like their slower stuff. Like Nothing Else Matters and some of the other songs that I mentioned, I do not like. I don't like the Unforgiven. I don't like Unforgiven 2. Unforgiven 2 might be one of the worst songs ever written by any band. But Unforgiven 3, my argument would be it's the best. It's the best of the 3 Unforgivens. The lyrically really good, musically I just love that tune. So I'd love to hear everybody's listeners' feedback on what their favorite Unforgiven song is. Well, I know I'm going to be overruled.
You'll be forgiven.
Yeah, well, I know I'll be overruled by the original Unforgiven, but Unforgiven 3, in my opinion, is the best one. So I'll send it over to you, Mauro.
Just on the Unforgiven, the first one and the third one are good, but I actually think the third one's better.
I agree.
I'm going to go a little off the rails. A song I really love, and it is a cover. It's on both Garage albums. Is Last Caress, Green Hill, the Misfits song. Mm-hmm. I always love those songs because I love the Misfits, and the Misfits it's
Do you like
they-
that better than Die, 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 My Darling?
Yeah, totally,
Okay.
totally. And I love to play it. But the Misfits always sounded so bad recorded, and they recorded it and it sounds so awesome. So I think it's a good tribute to the Misfits. I'm gonna lobby for the Misfits being one of our podcasts at some point.
I'd be open to it.
Yeah, and the other one that you guys all disagree with is the tribute to Lemmy on Hardwired to Self-Destruct, the song Murder One. I love the song. I love the video. It's a heavy riff. It's a great song. Maybe it's not for everybody, but I think it's a good tune and something I always put on. I always put that on when I'm listening to Metallica.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny how that, Murder One is and I remember when the album came out and you and I were saying, oh, which song do you like best? And we kind of compared notes, and there were some that were the same and some were different. And you've always been big on Murder One, and I've done my best. I've tried hard to like it, and it's one of my least favorite songs on that album. And I don't know why, like sometimes you like something, you can't explain why you like it. You just like it. Well, this is one of those ones that I just don't like, and I've tried, so I just I can't agree with you on that, but certainly I'm sure there's some people out there that enjoy that tune.
Well,
I don't know if there's any other closing remarks. What I will say is this has been a lot of fun, some good conversation. Next week or the next episode, we're gonna do Nirvana.
Oh shit!
Yeah, and then we'll do a little bit of a back-to-back grunge thing. We're gonna do Nirvana. We're gonna do Soundgarden. So make sure you check back and tune in for those. Anyway, is there anything else we want to say before we kind of
fuck Nickelback?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never got to make fun of Lars.
We could do that now.
Yeah, so that wraps up this episode, the first episode of Picks and Sticks. That was Metallica. Next episode, we're going to do Nirvana, followed by Soundgarden. So we'll do a little bit of a grunge era, if you will, and then I think there's going to be some debate between the four of us on what goes next. But I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised, or at least interested in what comes after that. So again, we thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, really anywhere that you get your podcasts. We really, again, tell all your friends, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers, and thanks for listening. So until next time, see ya.
See you.